Episode 6. Journeys Shared. The Pilgrims and the Stray Dog. I have always believed that every journey is made lighter by a bit of kindness, and the railway station at Thirupaloor seems to exist as a testament to that. Over the years, it has welcomed countless pilgrims on their way to holy sites across South India. Some are bound for Ramswaram, seeking to bathe in the sacred waters. Others head to Madurai to offer prayers at the grand Meenakshi temple. A few venture further north to Tirupati, hoping the Lord Venkateswara will bless them with prosperity or grant a lifelong wish. As the station's resident Chai Walla, I've crossed paths with many of these pilgrims, each carrying not just bundles of offerings, but also stories of faith, hardship, and occasional humor. And in these shared journeys, I've come to see how even the simplest gestures, like a cup of hot chai or a friendly chat, can hold profound significance for those on a spiritual quest. Michael had been keen to hear about such encounters. "Pilgrimages fascinate me," he said one morning, as I handed him a cup of fresh ginger cardamom chai. "In my country, people travel too, but not always in large groups for religious reasons. I'd love to know what kinds of experiences you've witnessed here." I offered him a grin. "Plenty, my friend. Gather around my cart, and I'll tell you a few tales. But first, let me introduce you to our station's most loyal companion, Raja." How Raja found a home. Raja is our station dog, a rangy stray with patchy fur and a perpetually wagging tail. Some claim he's part hound, others see a bit of the native pariah dog in his features. Either way, he's undeniably sweet-natured and has a knack for turning up wherever kindness is offered. I first noticed Raja about 6 years ago, skulking near the waste bin at the far end of the platform. He looked scrawny, with ribs poking through his dusty coat, and he limped slightly. Travellers sometimes chased him away, fearing he carried disease. But I saw something in his eyes, an odd mixture of longing and resignation, as if he didn't expect help. One night, while waiting for the last train, I spotted him shivering in the shadow of a bench. I couldn't ignore that trembling form. "Come here, boy," I called gently, clicking my tongue. He eyed me warily. I held out a piece of biscuit, one that a passenger had left behind. Slowly, he inched forward, each step tentative. When he finally reached me, he snatched the biscuit and darted back a few paces, chewing as though it might vanish if he lingered too long. Over the weeks that followed, I made it a habit to set aside scraps for him, a bit of rice or a morsel of chapati. At first, he kept his distance, tail tucked between his legs, but little by little, he realized no harm would come from me. One evening, he mustered the courage to lick my fingertips, and that was it. We became unlikely friends, a chai seller and a stray dog, both fixtures of the station. Michael listened to this story with a fond smile. "Animals have a way of sensing good souls," he remarked. "Perhaps," I said, rubbing the top of Raja's head as the dog sat by my cart. "Or maybe he just wanted the biscuits. Either way, he's become a permanent part of station life." The pilgrim who lost his sandals. Not long after Raja settled in, I had one of the more humorous pilgrim encounters. A group of pilgrims came from Karnataka, heading south to Ramaswaram. They wore simple white dhotis and carried small cloth bags with their essentials. One of them, a lanky man named Raju, had dozed off on a bench with his sandals neatly placed beside him. When he woke up, his sandals were gone. Panic ensued. Pilgrims are often strict about certain practices. Some vow not to purchase new footwear during a pilgrimage. Others can't afford to replace a pair easily. In Raju's case, it was both. He paced around the platform, wailing about how he couldn't continue without his trusted sandals. Michael, who happened to be there that morning, looked concerned. "Do you see thefts like this often?" he asked me. I shrugged. "Sometimes. More likely, it was a hungry dog or a monkey that dragged them away. Or maybe a careless passenger knocked them onto the tracks." Raju's fellow pilgrims searched high and low, asking vendors, travellers, even the station master if they'd seen a pair of battered sandals. No luck. Frustrated and close to tears, Raju slumped on the bench. Raja, who had been napping near the fruit stall, suddenly trotted up, nose twitching. He sniffed the air, his ears perking. Then he bounded off toward the far end of the platform where an old storeroom stood. A moment later, he emerged proudly with something clenched in his jaws. Raju's sandals. A cheer erupted from the pilgrims, and Raju knelt down to pat Raja's head, tears of relief streaming down his face. "Bless you, dog," he exclaimed. "You've saved my pilgrimage." Michael and I exchanged amused grins. I poured the group a round of chai to celebrate, and they departed on the next train, chanting and praising the miracle dog of Thirupaloor. "That's quite a story," Michael mused, jotting down notes. "They'll probably talk about Raja for years to come." I chuckled. "Yes, and they might even start a rumor that he's a divine reincarnation of a guardian deity. Who knows? Stranger things have happened." Nighttime chats. The essence of pilgrimage. One quiet evening, when the station had emptied of its daytime bustle, Michael and I found ourselves chatting at my cart. Raja lay curled at our feet, occasionally thumping his tail whenever I reached down to scratch his ears. "Anna," Michael began, "you've seen so many pilgrims pass through. Do you think these journeys really change them?" I paused, contemplating. In many cases, yes. A pilgrimage isn't just a physical journey. It's emotional, spiritual. People carry their burdens, their prayers, their guilt, and their hopes to these holy places. The idea is to leave something behind, sin, worry, or sorrow, and come back renewed. Michael nodded thoughtfully. "Have you witnessed any transformations firsthand?" I smiled, recalling a particular woman in her 50s who had visited regularly on her way to various temples, Kalahasti, Tirupati, Palani. Over the course of a year, she passed through Thirupaloor Station multiple times, each time looking a little lighter, a bit more at peace. On her final trip, she stopped by my cart and said, "You've been part of my journey too, Gopal. Your chai and your smile kept me going." She never explained what personal struggle she was dealing with, but I could see the relief in her eyes, like someone who had slowly unburdened her soul across each pilgrimage. Michael, engrossed, scribbled in his notepad. "It's amazing how a station can become a checkpoint for so many internal journeys, not just physical ones." "Exactly," I said. "Sometimes, after visiting temples, people pass by me again on their return trip. The conversation is different, more introspective, or sometimes more jubilant. They leave blessings for me in the station, as though we're part of their spiritual tapestry." The unexpected arrival of Sardis. Another memorable day involved a group of saffron-clad Sardis, holy men, who appeared in the midst of a hot afternoon, chanting Sanskrit shlokas. Their hair was matted into long dreadlocks, and their foreheads bore the marks of vibhuti, sacred ash. They carried no luggage, only small cloth bags with essentials. The entire station seemed to quiet as they arrived. There's a certain aura about a group of devout sadhus that commands respect, or at least curiosity. They strode right up to my cart, eyes bright against weathered faces. "Baba," one of them addressed me, though I'm no sadhu. "Can we have tea?" I nodded, trying not to stare. "Yes, of course, Swamiji. Milk tea or black tea?" They conferred briefly, then decided on milk tea, though they asked for less sugar. As I poured out the steaming chai, they began reciting a prayer for my good fortune. It was melodic, echoing across the platform. A handful of travelers watched from a respectful distance, uncertain if they should approach or keep away. Michael took a few photographs, carefully, after asking permission from the sadhus. The holy men didn't seem to mind. In fact, one turned to Michael and said, "Spread the word of faith and compassion, son. That's all we ask." After finishing their tea, the sadhus rummaged in their tiny bags to find a few coins. I tried to refuse payment, feeling it was wrong to charge holy men who barely had any possessions, but they insisted. Work must be honored, said one. You gave us your tea, we give you our offering. It is the balance of life. Michael later remarked on that line, writing it down. A wonderful philosophy, he murmured. Everyone has a role, and each role deserves respect. I nodded. Exactly. I'd like to think my role, as simple as it is, helps keep the station's spirit alive. A late-night tale of devotion. Sometimes the most poignant pilgrim stories unfold after sundown, when the station is cloaked in darkness and only a few lanterns burn. One such night, as the clock neared midnight, a single passenger stepped off the train, a frail older man, likely in his 70s, carrying a small cloth bundle. He moved slowly, each step labored, leaning on a makeshift cane. He approached my cart, chest rising and falling with exertion. "Son," he addressed me, "could I trouble you for a cup of chai? I have a little money." "Of course, Tata," I said, using the Tamil word for grandfather. "Sit down, I'll bring it to you." He settled on a bench, looking like he might doze off at any moment. I poured him a mild, lightly sweet chai to soothe his tired bones. When I brought it over, he thanked me quietly, cradling the clay cup in both hands. "I'm on my way to Ramaswaram," he whispered, "to do penance for my wife. She passed many years ago, but I promised her I'd visit the holy waters when I turned 75. My heart clenched, recalling my own loss of Lakshmi. "You're alone, Thatha?" He nodded, sipping the chai. "My children live far away, busy with their own lives. No one could come with me, but that's all right. My wife and I made this plan decades ago. We said, whoever is left will complete the journey on both our behalves." Michael, who had been nearby observing, inched closer, drawn by the quiet gravity of the man's story. Despite his fatigue, Thatha's eyes shone with determination. "I've come this far," he murmured. "Another few hours, and I'll be there. Then I can finally say, I kept my word." We sat with him for a while, offering more chai and some biscuits. He told us about his wife, how they met in their teens, married young, and struggled through poverty. He recounted how she always lit a tiny lamp each evening, praying for his health. "Her prayers must have worked," he said with a wry grin. "I've outlived her by almost a decade." When his connecting train arrived, he stood up, wincing at the pain in his knees. Michael and I helped him board, stowing his little cloth bundle safely on the seat. Before the train pulled away, he clasped our hands. "Thank you, my sons," he said, voice trembling with emotion. "Your kindness is one more blessing on this pilgrimage." We watched the train disappear into the night, feeling a profound respect for the quiet devotion that carried him forward. Laughter and philosophy. Early the next day, Michael asked me, "How do you reconcile the heaviness of some of these pilgrim stories with your day-to-day routine? It seems like a lot to take in." I reflected on his question as I served the morning rush. "It can be heavy, yes," I admitted, "but it also reminds me how interconnected we are. Each person's story might seem unique, but there's always a common thread. Longing, devotion, regret, hope. It's all part of the human tapestry." Michael sipped his chai, nodding thoughtfully. "And maybe that's why you keep your laughter, because you see that life is more than just sorrow." I smiled. "Exactly. If I got weighed down by every tragedy and worry that passed through here, I'd be crushed. But I remember Lakshmi's advice. Keep your laughter, Gopal. It's my way of saying I acknowledge life's burdens, but I won't let them defeat me." In the background, Raja barked at a cow that wandered onto the platform. A few pilgrims waiting for the Ramaswaram train giggled at the spectacle, a dog trying to shoo a cow, much larger than itself. The station master hurried over, flailing his arms to steer the cow away. Michael chuckled at the commotion. Even the animals here seem to embody that sense of everyday drama. I shrugged with a grin. That's Thirupaloor Station for you. Always a mix of chaos, devotion, humor, and heart. The stray dog's blessing. A couple of days later, a small group of North Indian pilgrims arrived, their bright turbans and colourful dupattas catching the early morning sunlight. They looked a bit out of place, flipping through phrase books to communicate in broken Tamil or English. I managed a few words in Hindi, having picked up bits and pieces from travellers over the years. As they waited for a connecting train to Madurai, Raja approached them, wagging his tail. One of the older women in the group bent down to pat his head. She appeared delighted by his friendliness. She asked me in halting English, "Dog name?" I grinned, tapping my chest. "Raja means king." She repeated the name, smiling, and rummaged through her bag. To my surprise, she pulled out a small container of sweets, prasad from a temple she had visited up north, and offered some to me. Then, with permission, she placed a tiny morsel in front of Raja, almost reverently, as though bestowing a blessing. Raja sniffed it, then gobbled it up, tail going wild. The group laughed, and a young boy took a photo on his phone. Michael captured the scene as well, enthralled by this spontaneous exchange of kindness across cultural and linguistic barriers. I turned to Michael, feeling a well of gratitude. "This is what keeps me going," I said softly. "Moments like these, where strangers become friends, even for a minute, and everything else fades away." He nodded, eyes shining. "It's beautiful, Anna. Pure, unspoken connection." Closing thoughts on a quiet evening. That evening, when the station was nearly empty, Michael and I reclined on a pair of wooden stools by my cart. The overhead lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, a temple bell rang. Raja curled at our feet, dozing. "You've shown me how pilgrims aren't just travellers," Michael said, voice low in the hush of twilight. "They're living stories of faith, struggle, and transformation. And you, in your own way, are part of each story, a gentle presence, offering tea and compassion." I let out a soft laugh. A bit grandiose, perhaps, but I won't deny it. We all play our roles. Mine happens to be pouring chai, sharing a smile, and maybe imparting a small dose of hope. Michael switched off his recorder, content with the day's stories. We sat there for a while, listening to the crickets chirp and the occasional hum of a passing freight train. Even the usual bustle seemed at peace, as though the station itself was taking a breath. After a stretch of companionable silence, Michael spoke again, a hint of teasing in his tone. "So, Anna, does Raja ever go on a pilgrimage himself?" I chuckled, glancing down at the snoozing dog. "He has his own brand of devotion, maybe to leftover biscuits and the warmth of the station. But who knows? Perhaps in his dog dreams he visits every holy site in India, collecting blessings and stories to bring back here." Michael laughed. "I wouldn't put it past him." Eventually, we stood and parted ways, Michael to his modest lodge, and me to my little shack. Raja followed dutifully, though halfway he decided to plop down near the banyan tree, as if keeping a silent vigil for any late arrivals. As I ambled through the slum's narrow lanes, I reflected on the day's conversations. Each pilgrim's story, whether comedic, poignant, or uplifting, reminded me that life itself is a pilgrimage. We're all traveling from one station to the next, burdened with hopes, fears, regrets, and dreams. If we're lucky, we meet people who offer us small mercies along the way. Arriving at my shack, I lit the kerosene lamp and lay down on my bedding. The faint flicker illuminated the worn photo of Lakshmi on the wall. Her image seemed to glow, as if she approved of how the day had unfolded. A contented smile curved my lips. I closed my eyes, letting the comforting sense of cardamom and the memory of chanting pilgrims fill my mind. Tomorrow would bring another set of travellers, another chance to offer chai and companionship. And so, with that gentle reassurance, I drifted off, thinking, yes, we're all pilgrims. Some of us just carry a kettle and cups instead of holy offerings.